That's all you got to do.
Yep. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to call the meeting of the Abbeville County School Board of Trustees Board Meeting of June the 29th to order. Do we have any motions for executive session?
Make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second.
This is a motion.
For what purpose?
That's right.
I'm sorry, make a motion, we go into executive session for personnel matters.
There's a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel matters. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say, raise your right hand. All those opposed? We are
Chairman, I'll make a motion, we come out of executive session.
Second.
There's a motion that we come out of executive session, back into regular session in a second.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Thank you. There's no action necessary based on the matters discussed in executive session at this time. First of all, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. It's like we have a room full, so I hope everybody's enjoying their summer, and thank you all for attending our June 29th Abbeville County School District Board meeting. Thank you so much. If you would, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Our gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this evening. But I just ask that your blessings continue to flow on our district and all our staff and our students, and hope everyone is having a safe and blessed summer. I just pray for this meeting as we do the work of the school and all our students and administration. In your name I pray. Amen. Next on our agenda, we have letter D. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
Yeah. Mr. Brown.
Any discussion?
I'm gonna make a motion to amend the agenda to add an action item for continuing resolution of our budget.
There's a motion to add a continuing resolution to our budget per our policy DB under the annual budget. If we do not accept the budget by June the 30th, the board will adopt a continuing resolution based on last year's operating budget. By doing that, it requires a 2/3 declared an emergency to add it to the agenda since it was not posted 24 hours in advance. So is there a vote of 2/3 to pass a declared emergency item to add this to the agenda?
Yes.
All those in favor of adding the declare an emergency to add the continuing resolution based on the agenda for the continuation of our budget, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? That's a 2/3 vote, so that continuing resolution, that declared emergency to add it is approved. Back to the amendment to add a item under discussion action items to approve the adding the continuing resolution to the agenda. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor? Any more discussion on that amendment?
Will you elaborate on why this is necessary, Mr. Chairman?
I will direct that to our superintendent.
Yes, sir. Board, and I will say to you, I apologize. We failed to get a notice in a timely manner for the second reading of our budget. It was not sent to the paper in the timeline allotted. Hence, we had to submit that yesterday, making the second reading occur on July the 27th. So that was an oversight on my part, and I apologize for that oversight.
So why, when we had an amended agenda posted, did we not have continuing resolution included in the amended agenda that was posted?
That was again my oversight.
Okay. Any other questions? No? All those in favor of the amendment to add a resolution under action item to the agenda, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Okay, one opposed. Now back to the original motion by Mr. Rhodes to approve the agenda as amended to put the continuing resolution of the budget, last year's operating budget, until the budget can be approved under discussion action items number 3. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Thank you. Would be noted. Thank you. So the agenda is approved with added number 3. Tonight we have Gold Star highlights. I like seeing all the students' faces, even in the middle of the summer. So Dr. Bruton and Dr. Gary, I'm sure, and it looks like Dr. Hopkins.
Mr. Chair, Dr. Gary, if you could come up, please. To our board members and to our people, everyone in attendance tonight, we would like to recognize several different groups. Our first group is going to be the Dixie High School Ladies Softball Team. They are our reigning Upper State 1A champions. As I call your name, please come up to receive your certificate along with a handshake from our superintendent and from our board chair. If you can make like a U kind of circle as you come out, we'll get some pictures. And we'll also recognize our coaches, and Mr. Prescott, you can come forward as well for your students and your team. Okay, first we have Wesley Bensel. She's not here. We'll give it to her coach. Savannah Brock. Maddie Cox. Okay. Ashton Crocker. Haley Hill. Megan Hill. Jillian Hughes. Maribel Jacks. Cadence Lauder. Elena Mitchell. Addie Smith. Reagan Stoll. Dakota Todd. Mackenzie Ware. And Ellie Watson. Okay. Some of them are at the beach vacation, which we understand. Our coaches are head coach Ben Snipes, Mr. Chris Bensel, Mr. Chris Crocker, and Ms. Samantha Ferguson. These are our coaches.
Congratulations, guys. Thank you all. Great job.
If you all could please stay, our board, I'm sure we have comments when we finish our goals or highlights. Next, we have track and field. We have one student from Abbeville High School, Shankivius Brown, third place in the triple jump. Not sure if anyone's here from Abbeville High School. Then we have track from Dixie High School. Some of these are going to be repeaters, but we're so happy and proud of all of them. So for the state competition for Dixie track, we have Clara Angel, state champion, 1,600 meter race. Clara broke the school record for Dixie High School dating back to the 1980s. It was formerly held by one of our current employees, Ms. Holly Kennerly. So way to go, Clara, for breaking Ms. Kennerly's record. Clara also has another, she's a state runner-up in the 800 meter race. Let's give Clara another round of applause. So now we have our girls relay team at the state level. They are the state champions, 4x800 meter race. Clara Angel, Neely Bell, Samantha Burnett, and Summer Tillman. I think Clara's here representing all of Thank you.
Ask the questions. She was state champion in two.
Yes, sir. She's Clarence's state champion for the 1600 meter, and she's the state champion for the girls relay 4x800. So she's our reigning state champion for Dixie. Next, we have the 3200 meter. We have a second place in the state, and her name is Samantha Burnett. I do not believe we'll give it to Mr. Prescott. She's not here. Then our boys relay team for Dixie High School, state runners up, 4x800 meter race, Ethan Angel. Daniel Boyd, Jaden James, and Spencer Wieters. We'll give those to their principal, Mr. Prescott. So our boys relay team were the state runners-up for the state championship. Okay, and then we have Spencer Wieters, also 1600 meter. He was third place in the state. Again, 3200 meter race. Spencer Wieters was state runner-up, and Daniel Boyd was third place. And we'll give those to Mr. Prescott. And they also had a third place in the state for the triple jump, Jaden James. And we'll give that to Mr. Prescott. Dixie is running. Okay, Mr. Prescott, you will please stay as we recognize Dixie's FFA. Mr. Murdoch, the FFA sponsor from Dixie, could not be here tonight, but he wanted his students to be recognized. We have Lilia Overholt, Upper Creek Speaking Leadership Development Event. Lilia, this was open to first year FFA members in the 10th grade. Members are scored on Creed recitation and question responses. She placed first in the region, in Region 2 for the South Carolina FFA Upper Creek Speaking Event. She advanced to the finals where she finished second in the state. So congratulations to Lilia. Mary Catherine Hanna and Julia Busby. As you notice, they are in their official FFA dress. These two ladies competed as members of the Nursery Landscape Career Development Event Team. In this state contest, Mary Catherine finished as the second highest individual, and Julia finished as the sixth highest individual in the state. They all three devoted many hours in preparation for these events. Let's give these ladies a round of applause.
I got to go this way. I'm too old to do this.
We do want to congratulate all of our students and thank you parents as well as their support systems at home. We appreciate you allowing us to educate your children, but to allowing them to be a part of our extracurricular activities. So now, Mr. Kimsey has a special group that he would like to recognize in our district.
And if they would, I ask them to go ahead and come up front. I'm gonna put the other two who couldn't.
Okay, so these technology. These are all of our media specialists in our schools. If they come forward, Mr. Kimsey would like to recognize them for a very hard job this year with iTech and one-to-one and everything else.
Just an example of the dedication, you got one who's home medically and the other who's on vacation, so their dedication still showed up. I'm sure she's having more fun where she is, but I did want to take this opportunity. I do appreciate the board letting me do this, and as well as the administration letting me do this. These folks are unsung heroes. This has been a very, very difficult year, a very challenging year for us with technology, and we've done things we've never done before, and I would call it a success, mostly because of these ladies right here, because without them, we could not have had a successful one-to-one program. They're on the front lines every day, helping teachers, troubleshooting problems, just doing the things, you know, I may be writing the song, but they're making the music. So I did want to publicly recognize them and acknowledge their efforts, and I do appreciate everything they've done. I guess we'll just we'll go through the stack here so you can know who's who. Ms. Hawthorne, right middle. Miss Cuddle, Westwood Elementary. Miss Campbell, John C. Calhoun. Miss Silver, Cherokee Trail. Miss Ware, Dixie High. And Miss Evans, Lone Cane Primary. And we have Miss Hannah and Miss Sleester joining us online. These ladies are my colleagues, my sisters. Sometimes they're my mama, but most of all, I'm proud to call them my friends. I thank you very much for what you've done this year for our district.
I do have to ask why y'all get your picture made. Only one person I want to ask this to, because Ms. Hawthorne, you were the media specialist when I was in middle school. So, how long have you been a media specialist?
This is my third year.
Bless you.
Y'all stay and smile. I didn't want to take a picture while he was talking, while y'all were answering questions. I don't have my glasses on, that's probably not a good thing. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right,
Thank you, ladies.
Great job.
I would have never.
Thank you for everyone on the Gold Star highlights. Thank you, Dr. Bruton, Dr. Gary, Dr. Hopkins, and our principals. Thank you. It's always good. The board likes to have a few comments, and we will have a few comments. And then if y'all would like to leave, you can. If you after our comments, and or if you want to stay for the rest of the board meeting, you may wish. So tonight we'll start on the end there, Mr. Bryson.
Wow, Dick's on fire this year. That's a great job, and I recommend all of you. Looking forward next year to another state championship. Make sure I'm in this time.
I just say congratulations to everybody. It's a lot of highlights and a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, congratulations to all our girls on our softball team and our FFA girls. I did Creed speaking. I hated it. I'm glad you were able to do it. I hated doing that. Our media specialist, I'm like Matt, I don't think we could have got through this year without y'all help getting that one-on-one for every student. So I appreciate that. Thank y'all.
Stephen?
I don't know what to say, it's just, I'm overwhelmed tonight, all these young folks here tonight, and that's what really makes us feel good as board members when we see the results. Thank you for your hard work.
I'm like Mr. Taylor, I don't know what to say, but I can say this. I would like to congratulate all of the Gold Star Highlight participants tonight. Keep up the good work and continue on, because we couldn't do a lot of things that we do here in Abbeville School District without you. So thank you.
I'll just ditto all those same comments. Thank you all for representing the school district so well. Hopefully the board has had a small part in some of your successes, but it does, it's up to you all and your homes and your parents. So congratulations to all those as well. And then all of our staff, everybody deserves an award tonight. But thank you for representing everyone so well, everyone that was recognized tonight. Thank you.
Congratulations, job well done. God bless you.
And congratulations to everybody recognized. Just want to do a quick shout out to Coach Snipes over there. I know you're retiring, buddy. We're proud for you, glad for what you've done.
I think everybody has said all the same thing, guys. Congratulations. And on the same note of Coach Snipes, Coach Ferguson, you'll be here many times next year, right? That's great. Well, great job to all our Gold Star highlights, and we look forward to seeing you many more times come to the board. And our media specialists, what a wonderful job that you all continue to do for our district. Thank you all. And if y'all would like to leave, you may leave now. So thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank you. Rob.
We need to quit running that. That old girl there. Good job. We need to quit running that little girl there. She running like 5 events. That's a lot of running. That's a lot of running.
Fast.
I hate
It's
running.
fast.
That's great. Moving right along, there's public input. We do not have anyone here tonight for public input. I will continue to remind those that are listening and those that are present, the guidelines for public input is printed at the top of the Board of Trustees agenda. Under letter G, consent action items, we have the motion to approve. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes for May 25th? I trust that everyone has had those and read them. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Mr. Peoples makes a motion. Is there a second? There's a second. Under consent action items, there's no discussion. All those in favor of the printed minutes of May 25th, 2021, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion is approved. Dr. Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Board members, under my superintendent report, letter A, Sealy Construction Company. I would like to introduce you tonight to Mr. Justin Martin. And this is the face behind Sealy Construction, or is it the brains behind Sealy Construction?
Unless you made that call.
But I have Mr. Martin here. I wanted y'all to see him, and perhaps you might have a question or two for him. But I certainly want to say to you and your company, thank you for the work you are getting done for us. Very pleased with the pace and the quality that we're seeing. So at this time, is there any questions for Mr. Martin from the board?
I do. Mr. Martin, thank you for being here tonight, and nice meeting you. A couple of things I had on your, just since we get to see you. The progress, I've been to both sites. They are coming along, though I'm a little nervous. So what is your projection of completion of the press boxes, knowing that we need one working by August the 5th?
We anticipate that one being done and the other one being done no later than August 5th. We're hopeful that all 4 buildings will be done by August 5th. They should all be functioning by that date. Or the creek don't rise, or we don't get too much more rain. But no, we're progressing along like we anticipated. So we're confident that y'all will be in those and everything will be fine come into July, 1st of August.
Have you ran into any unexpected things so far?
No, like I said, we've had a little bit of weather. We've worked around it. We've, having both sites, we've been able to bounce back and forth when we've had some rain and some, weather, mud days, and try and keep progress moving. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. Like I said, we ran into a footing that nobody knew existed, and they got that handled pretty quickly. So no major issues to this point. And we're like I said, we've got another crew that's starting either later this week or first of next week, as far as an additional masonry crew to try and supplement and knock out, primarily to get the concession buildings knocked out. But like I said, we're tracking where we thought we would be, so no reason for concern at this point.
And all materials are present and accounted for?
Correct. All the necessary materials at this point are on site. Steel will begin going in, I believe, on Monday next week. Okay. I think they are working on Monday, and they'll start setting the steel decking to pour the upper floors at Abbeville first, and then as the press box at Dixie is completed into this week, first next week. I know we've got some heavy rains potentially coming in, so we'll work around that. But as soon as they get those set at Abbeville, they'll then move to Dixie to start getting those decks in so that we can get concrete poured and stairs going in, and keep on right along.
Good. That was my questions. Thank you. Any other board members have any questions from Mr. Justin? Okay. Thank you for coming.
Thank you all. Glad to be working with y'all folks.
Yeah,
Glad to hear. Thank you so much. Mr. Chair, the other item I have at letter B is the capital improvement plan, and you've received a update in your packet, and today I actually updated it once again, and so I put a folder at your table to update the CIP as well as give you some phase 3 for information items. As you look at the back of the CIP, you'll notice I list that as phase 3, and I list academic wings at both high schools, regulation gyms, and cafeteria expansions. So what I wanted to do, since our last meeting, we had a request for a site overlay. So what I've done is provided you an update as late as lunch today. Mr. Kimsey, if you'll pull that up, I'd like the public to be able to draw the pictures, the sites that I gave you. Just pull up the pictures and well, it should be Dixie's weight room. That was the first one scanned. Right there. All right, so what I tried to do per scale is show you how the building would fit. And just to give you an update on this is the Dixie High School weight room, wrestling room / locker room. And the orientation that I'm proposing to maximize our use and future building expansion. So you'll kind of see how it's laid out. It will take out where the existing greenhouse is and then extend back toward the back of the property line. But it will leave us the drive that we will need for fire and emergency egress. So where I'm at with that, if you'll flip to the next one, Mr. Kimsey. Again, I didn't include the weight room on this rendering, but I did include at the very top of the page, looking at some estimates. Again, phase 3, we were looking at academic wings, we're looking at a gym that would have bleachers on both sides, so we can have a regulation match or basketball game there, as well as a cafeteria expansion. So I wanted you to see an initial overlay of where that would look, or where that would be located on the Dixie High School campus. And at the very top, I wanted to just explain to you, I was able to locate this week some 2019 estimates from LS3P that we used, or the board used several years ago to do a study. And what I found was they were using at 2019 a $226 per square foot estimate with a 3% escalation per year. So I ran some numbers for you based on the square footage I'm proposing, just to give you a ballpark figure per school, per site, estimated cost. So we're looking at $4.3 million for a 2-story academic wing. We're looking at $2.5 million for a gym. And the cafeteria expansion has not been priced at this point. So $6.8 million would be a proposed number I wanted to share with you, just so we can start thinking about when we, or if we enter phase 3, what kind of cost and impact that would have for us. So that was the Dixie. And if you flip, Mr. Kimsey, to the next rendering, this is Abbeville's High site location. And what I've done at both places is whatever amount of rooms I am demolishing is the amount of rooms I'm putting back. Okay, so if we took out 30 rooms, I'm putting back in 30 rooms. I took out 24 at Dixie, I'm putting back in 24. So you'll understand what the logic is behind it. So this is, again, just a proposal. The academic wings, we do have the space to go in between the 2 existing buildings with that construction. And you'll notice, because there's more, I'm taking out more classroom space here. Abbeville's 2-story academic wing would be $8.3 million. The gym's the same price as the one at Dixie at $2.5, so we're looking at about $10,894,000 roughly as an estimate. So again, this is more information unless you have questions. And I wanted you to, because that was a request last board meeting, I wanted to get that in your hands tonight, see if there's any questions about capital improvement or site layout, or is there any further information. I am told, Justin's left, that Sealy is working on pricing for the weight room at Dixie, and I hope to have that this week. We do not have that at this time. So again, trying to present options for you guys to let you see what's going on. And then further on the CIP, of course, you know what Sealy's doing. That's under construction. We have the greenhouse at Dixie High School. The pad for both of those has been graded. It's on level, waiting on concrete to be poured. Long Cane parking lot has been prepped, gravel's down, and it's ready to be installed, waiting, the weather is what's creating an issue for us. And then, of course, the weight locker room at Dixie, that's a pricing. Once we agree on a price, we'll be ready to move forward with it as well. So I think that was all the questions from last time. Is there any at this point I could entertain?
Just because it's printed on here, I'm sorry, the cafeteria expansion for Dixie says to be determined. Is that the same?
The same, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to.
I don't know how to price that at this point. That's
Right.
what I'm trying to find.
Well, I just didn't want people to think
Right.
it's written.
Yeah, you've got to overlay at both schools for cafeteria expansion.
Yes.
So what are we working on price-wise? You're getting that now?
Right.
Cafeteria?
The problem is getting a company to tell you, if you do an expansion for a gym, what does it cost? A locker room, what does it cost? And I can't find the cafeteria expansion. So that's what I'm trying to get that information. So is it $226 a square foot, or because it's open space, is it less than that? And that's what I have not found at this point.
So the numbers you have, is that just the building, or is that furnished turnkey building?
Just building.
So that's just $226 a square foot building. So
Correct.
what's an estimate for the turnkey part of it? Let's say a 2-story classroom building, if we're looking at $8 million for the construction part of it, what are we looking at furnished wise moving in?
Right, can't answer that one yet, because that we're gonna need a company to tell us, FF&E, this is what it's gonna cost you per room. And that information was not provided for me.
Based on the information that you have provided the board, if we were going to do any of phase 3, we are going to have to decide whether we're going to do it, whether we're going to do a referendum in the fall or do it in the spring. Is that?
That's correct. And also in your folder, I gave you some notes from a lady named Franny Hazard, who does bonds. So that was a request also last board meeting, so I provided that for you, her feedback. And you guys would make a determination if we move forward with that. She's given suggestions, and she said she would be willing to come to the July board meeting if y'all want her to be here to answer such questions. So you direct me how you would like that to go.
And none of these numbers refer to the Career Center at all.
Career Center, again, because it's a different kind of space.
Right.
I'm having a hard time locating that, but I am working on that.
Also, thank you for putting this together,
Yeah.
Dr. Gary. And I just want to kind of reiterate, these are estimates.
That's correct.
Rough estimates. So I know the newspaper may be reporting these numbers that are stated here tonight, and numbers like this tend to stick in people's minds.
Yeah.
But I just want to reiterate the point that these are rough estimates, if I'm correct.
Very rough.
Okay.
These are Mason estimates.
Okay, gives us a scale to
Yes.
envision.
Just
Thank
to
you.
give you an idea, based on 2019 numbers,
Right.
and Fountain Inn High School was the school I used to determine that.
Yeah.
So, but that was a LS3P who the board had used, so I felt confident that we're at least in the same ballgame.
If I understand you correctly, if we are moving in, whenever we decide to move in phase 3, and we decide to go to the people, we're gonna have to do some kind of resolution.
Yes,
Referendum.
referendum resolution, yes. A form of question, I think that was termed. Yes.
So we're gonna have to make some kind of decision this summer or either during the fall as to what we're gonna have to do in order for you to be able to continue to move forward with this?
Well, if we go to the construction phase, yes. When the vote happens, we need to back up 75 days. That's how the form of question is issued, and then the vote happens 75 days later. So that's the window we have to, Ms. Heiser said, work backwards. When is it you want to vote, and then start working backwards. So the vote can be anytime during, the year. Y'all get to determine that. She recommends it be during the school year while school's in session.
It makes sense.
And even probably more so, general election.
And what would what would be our next, to get more, because like I said, this board is very well versed on putting numbers out there that are not, just estimated numbers, and when that gets stuck, like Mr. Dunn said, that gets stuck in people's heads. What's our next step that you recommend that we need to get firm numbers?
Get to the company you want to use, because they're the ones that's going to provide that estimate that will be binding. These are not binding. These are just to give us a ballpark, because if we go to a referendum, we need to know an amount. So
It's an RFP.
Correct.
How close are we on the final designs for Westwood and John C's office stuff?
Offices are being designed, correct, Mr. Reed? They're not complete.
Meeting again tomorrow, ready to both sides tomorrow, by 11, and they'll have the final.
And the awnings at Long Cane and right middle?
Will be installed July, second and third week of July.
Struggling for steel.
Any other questions for Dr. Gary on the CIP?
These are new gyms, right?
Those would be new gyms, yes, sir, because right now we have one set of bleachers, and when you get into, Mr. Prescott can probably tell us better now, I've been out for a while, but when you get into a playoff situation, there's a seating capacity you have to be able to hold a playoff. So 2 sets of bleachers, one on each side is what I'm proposing, so we would at least have the availability to do that.
And then any plan for what you would do with the space for the old gym?
Still use it.
For Dr. Gary, I want to thank you for getting this information, because we really need that to make some kind of decision sometime in the near future, if we're going to do more, if we're going to put more action as opposed to talking. We're going to have to, based on what she said, we got some timelines that we have to deal with, and I don't know when we're going to have to decide, but I think in the near future we need to decide whether we're going to try to do something in the fall that will coincide with the November election, or whether we're going to try to do something in the spring, and when. And we want to try to do this during the school year.
Yes, sir.
And not in June or July.
Would y'all like me to have Ms. Heiser invite you here for July?
The only thing is, I think don't we need to get to the point of the RFP, or getting some more firm numbers, and then?
And she may be able to tell that process a little bit cleaner than I can describe, is why I'm suggesting that.
So would y'all like for Ms. Heiser to be here in July or August?
She does that every day, I don't.
Or Mike Gallagher, or?
Mr. Chairman, sooner the better. Let's get that.
So, all right, everybody good? So if you'll just have her here, and that's it. And I think it's well noting too, Dr. Gary, on with our CIP, with the capital and projects, with our fund there was $5.1 million.
Yes, sir.
And the reasoning behind, and this is great information, I think, for us and for the public, because I'm sure some of you have got questions of, why are we focusing on the academic, not athletics, but what we're doing is we're taking care of needs that we can afford.
That's correct.
With the 5.1, because obviously when we touch the classroom,
We're over that.
We're over that's done. So then the purposes for that CIP money was to spend it on projects, capital improvement projects.
Yes, sir.
Right. So I just wanted to make sure that was covered. Anything else? Any other questions? All right.
Maintenance update, Mr. Reed.
Oh, there's a couple of things that I'm gonna do quickly that probably were not on the report that come in late. We demoed the room at Dixie in-house classroom and got a new floor down. Grading for the greenhouses is complete. We'll get a cement contractor in there, but I'm having to wait whether we get him in there tomorrow for this onslaught. It's gonna be a muddy mess, so I may wait and just see what happens on the rain before we have it could be bad if we try to pour them and if we get that much rain. So I'm gonna talk to the city, I need the contractor more. We'll kind of go from there. Moving the storage building at Dixie by Thursday, get that pad, and once that's done, we get greenhouse moved. We got a good bit of the cement pads demoed, the old buildings that were there. So all we like is the greenhouse pad and the pad that the storage building sits on, so that'll complete that part of it. We have 2 ticket booths at Abbeville Farm. They're pouring, was Thursday, but I've big barred and didn't steal. They're coming in the morning at 8. So we'll be pouring those 2 pads, and we're gonna, once dried, we're gonna break that pad and carry it to Dixie. We want the baseball side on that side of the field and get it formed and get it poured. Painting at Abbeville is about 90 to 95% complete. As soon as they roll out of there, they're going straight to Dixie and paint the areas of Dixie that will be excited. Outside the general day-to-day stuff that goes on, purchasing is pretty much complete. We kind of forget that stuff when you get super involved in everything else, but we pretty much completed all of our purchasing for 21-22. And then inspections, fire inspections are coming up next month. Everything will be inspected. We did our backflow inspections. I met with the inspector and I settled one failed. That's all for the age of them. Not a bad average. So we got one backflow we need to change. But, anybody have any questions?
Yes, sir.
Just a comment, we've talked about this before. Thank you, Mr. Rick, for everything you're doing, and Dr. Gary and everyone. We've talked about this before, selling this to the public, or promoting this, and I think we've been posting some photos online and that type thing, but, unless you're riding by a school and something's going on outside, you don't really see all of these things that are going on. So if there is some way we could, because it's an impressive report, so, I think that we need to, I don't know if it needs to be in this format, but I would just suggest especially if we're going to be asking for money from the public sometime soon, it may do us well to promote even our maintenance report a little bit. Hey, these are the type things that we completed this month, and we hear about, a summary of it from Mr. Reap here at every board meeting, and we're all aware of it because we see this, and then we can answer questions of the public. But I would just ask for consideration that we come up with some sort of format to push this out a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that's really my only comment. Thank you for all your hard work, and I'm excited about things that we're doing and moving forward with.
Would you, I know we have a presence on social media. We could put together some pictures, or the maintenance staff could just take snapshots of people stripping the
Something,
floors, or just put that on. Can we do that on social media? Is that?
And I'm not opening up a can of worms, but just something.
Yeah.
We've been putting some, but it's probably a little slack on my part. Man, it's been busy.
Yeah.
It's just,
That's your priority.
Once the purchasing gets by, because, and not trying to add to the count, but, we buy everything but textbooks, paper, toilet paper, so the whole 9 yards comes to the shop. So we'll get back to getting some more pictures on there once we get them completed.
No, and I just want to be clear, I'm not complaining about how I think that's went well. I think if I had to make a simple suggestion, is that we could take just this report, even if it's in writing, and push that out a little bit in some format.
Sure.
That way you can see what's going on, not just in your neighborhood schools. You're seeing, hey, we're doing all of these things across the district, and, the total work order, 165 work orders, some are small, some are large. I think you did mention multiple work orders have been done have been large projects, so, and we generally see this many work orders every month, so every work order has to be processed. Some take a long time, some take a little time, but we should be happy that these things are happening.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for maintenance report? Okay. Next.
Ms. Scott, financial update.
Yes, sir, good evening. I have put in your monthly statement for May, revenue expenditure report, also the coronavirus relief funds, and the South Carolina, what we call ESSER 1, South Carolina CARES ESSER 1. If you have any questions about those 3 items, I'll be happy to try to answer those.
Anybody have any questions for Ms. Scott on the financials?
Once again, Dr. Gary, I'm gonna request that we not be given anything at a board meeting that we don't have an opportunity to study prior to the meeting. Getting a handful of numbers, we can't look at this and ask questions.
We're giving you this as preliminary information for the board to pass the budget. We're trying to give you as much information as we can, so you'll have a month to study it. It does relate to the 21-22 budget. We just want to go over some numbers to show you the challenges that we have. The underfunded base student costs by state legislature. As you can see, over the past 12, 14 years, they've shorted us $24 million. This is the legislators passed the law that it would increase, the base student cost would increase by CPI, and the Budget Control Board and now Office of Fiscal Affairs create the estimate, and this is the shortfall every year since 2010. This is showing in graph form the same information. As you can see, they have not fully funded the base student cost in many years. Okay. Also, I wanted to point out that another challenge we have is Act 388. It has a valuable meal for the fiscal year. The millage rate that the school board levied, the property value of the 4% of property is the owner-occupied homes. Had we been able to tax those homes at the current rate or the millage rate for that year, as you can see, it's $4 million for 15, 16, 16, 17, 4.9 in 2021. And the next column is what we've actually received from the state that was supposed to have supplement what the homeowners do not pay. And we go from a difference of almost $1.7 million to $2.8 million over a period of years for $14 million that the state has not funded their portion of our school budget. Okay, and I think this is, no, it's not one. This is millage data. There were some questions that have been over the years why we increased taxes. And going back, waiting 3 years, we are showing that what could have non-captured millage revenue on the right-hand column, because we did not increase taxes as we could have over a period of several years, it's $900,000. Just this current year, we are leaving $112,000 on the table because we did not have a cumulative amount for those years we did not increase taxes. Mr. Dunn had asked that we include the millage information on the previous report. And this is just an expansion of the report I gave you in May. But we wanted to let you know that, you know, our struggle is coming from the state legislators, because they were mandating that salary increases, also increasing our fringe benefits, et cetera, and not providing funds that we need. The state lawsuit several years ago said that they were providing minimally adequate. We think our students deserve more than minimally adequate. But this is just a snapshot of the challenges we see here in the district in creating a budget. Just wanted you to have a little information that you could share. Again, I want to point out that our budget is 89% salary and fringe. And this is most every budget. And then the direct instruction and instructional support is 84% of our total budget. So if you have any questions now, or you'd like me to gather more information, I'd be happy to get that for you before we have the budget meeting or approval of the budget. I did want to get this to you so that it may create some more thought, and we want you to have all the information that we can gather.
So how many years in a row has the district had a surplus at the end when the budget closes out?
Well, we've actually, since 2011.
Okay, so each year we have a surplus, so we get to put that money up. So it's almost tough to tell taxpayers, we need to tax you more when we have surplus over what the budget has been prepared.
We have moved that money in the capital projects.
Sure, I understand where the money is, where the money's been moved to, I understand, I'm just saying, you know, if you prepare a budget, a tight budget, and not one with a lot of excess, you're not gonna have a huge surplus every year. When I say huge, we put $800 to $1 million a year in a savings account, right? If you prepare a budget that at the end of the budget cycle, you might have $100,000 left over and say, well, we prepared a pretty good budget. You know, if you have a shortfall somewhere in March or April, you come back to the board and say, we need to amend the budget and we need to move a little money from the fund balance to cover whatever. But when we have a surplus every year for the past 8 or 9 years, I just have a tough time going to my taxpayers and saying, hey, let's raise your taxes again. That's just me.
Well, back, let's see, this cumulative amount, I understand what you're saying, but we're 2% in the budget. We're 2% in revenue and 2% for expenditures, and that's pretty close. You know, $100,000 won't pay the light bills. You know, it's relative to the amount of budget that we're putting back into the fund balance.
Ms. Scott, may I ask a question? So the state approved the $1,000 raise for teachers, including increasing the minimum salary from 36 to 36 from 35.
That's correct.
And the pay bump is on top of the annual increase teachers receive based on years of experience and education level.
That's correct.
And so all that is mandated and not fully funded.
That's correct.
I just want to make sure I got that right.
Key term, fully funded.
Huh?
Fully, the term is fully funded. It's not fully funded,
Yeah,
you're
it's not-
correct.
right.
It is funded,
But it's not fully funded.
not fully funded.
Right.
So you can't say, well, we're getting an unfunded mandate. No, you're getting a mandate, you're getting partial funding for it.
How much is it? What's the state paying on that percentage wise? What do we have to pay?
But the base student cost, the base student cost.
No, the increase, the step increase. He said it's mandated, we're partially funded by the state, we can local have to make up the difference.
Right.
What's the difference between what the state pays and what the county pays?
The state sends us money for the base student cost. They pay 80% of that. They did give us, they are projecting about $200,000 for the $1,000 increase. They do not give us any money for the step. They give us partial money for the fringe to go with that, and our local dollars have to make up the difference. There is, other than the base student cost, they just create a pot of money, and it's based on, could be based on the number of students you have, the teachers that you have. Different pots are based on different criteria, and I can't say how much the state is paying for a student,
And I think I understand what Mr. Soto's asking, so roughly, and I'm just thinking in business terms here now, so, and if this is incorrect, saying it like this, tell me. So roughly, our payroll each month is about $2 million, give or take, $2 million. So would you, is there ever a way to say out of that $2 million payroll every month, how much does the state cover of that $2 million, and how much do we have? Okay.
We don't get money. We have, the state says give bus drivers 4% salary increase.
Right.
They're not giving us money for that, but they're saying we're giving the whole state 2%, and they consider state bus drivers state employees. Well, they're saying give them 4%, but we want you to give them 2%, but they're providing no money to do that. That is not, we actually pay, our starting salary, I think, is $4 or $5 more than what the state says to pay. Our teaching assistants, we get no money for that. We get no money for administrators. And these are, nobody that's classified. We do not receive any state funding for those employees.
And out of that new state budget, there's supposed to be some money set aside for building improvements and stuff like that. From a financial standpoint, is there a way, since we're talking about budget, is there a way we'll go about trying to get that or applying for that?
Right now, it's just for consolidated districts.
Okay.
Unless they've changed something. The last I read, it was for consolidating districts.
Oh, okay.
And one thing I am doing this week is sending to Jasmine Shaw, who's over at OSF, our capital improvement plan with future projects that perhaps could happen.
Yep.
Now, I did talk to the state superintendent last week, and she mentioned some money that perhaps is available, which I think is the same pot, for consolidated efforts. And I made it clear, consolidation here is probably not what you mean across the state.
Right.
With consolidation. Career Center, consolidation, moving middle school to Dixie would be consolidation. That's what I would be looking for.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let's not forget, we haven't really talked much about that $14 million extra chunk of money that's coming in, When you talk about the budget, don't want to include that because that's separate. I don't want anybody to forget that we're getting $14 million extra from the federal government. And the scary part of it is not a penny requires board approval on how to spend it. That's the scary part for me, it is.
We'll say out of that 14, $9 million, if the plan goes through, will be spent on infrastructure through the ABM project, which will then capture savings that will go back to general fund. But, we have to develop that plan, submit that to the state. So.
Also, 20% of that dollar figure has to be used to address learning loss. So that's a requirement.
Can any of this money, this $14 million, is that reoccurring monies, or this is just one time?
It's
you
one
have
time.
it and you gotta
And we have
come up
3
with a
years
plan to spend it. But after that money's gone, it's gone.
That's correct.
But-
We won the lottery.
Okay, okay, now, you mentioned, putting monies in our fund balance, or savings out of, once, at the end of the budget year, I mean, not the budget year, but the end of the school year, you do all your calculations. You've had, over the years, you've been able to put back a certain amount of money.
Yes, sir.
Where did that money come from?
It was the difference, 2% difference between the revenue that we projected and what we actually received, and 2% difference between the expenditures that we actually spent. So it was, you know, it was just an effort to, when I came here, we had $750,000 in the fund balance.
That's not enough. That's not
And we
enough.
won't make payroll. It was not pay bills for the month. And we have built up a fund balance using, and we've used funds, just like the ESSER funds. We looked at it as a whole big pile of money and what we could pay out of it, and then put it to each category, just like Title I. At one time, it was an island with itself, you know, it was kind of, this is Title I money, this is EIA money. Well, we put all the money like in one pot and said, okay, we can pay this teacher out of Title I, this teacher out of EIA, and then what's left over, the general fund will pay for. So we've managed to do that, over the last several years, so that all the funds are working together instead of, you know, being just an island itself.
And so how much do we have in our fund balance now?
$7 million.
$7 million.
Yes.
How much should we have? Or we
It
need?
It is requested, or it is advised to keep at least 2 months operating, 2 months of operations in your fund balance. I prefer 3, me personally. We are a little over 3 months, so we're right at 3 months.
But if something occurs that we don't have the funds for, you got to go into your fund balance. And basically, I assume that our insurance is that if something happened that we don't know about, we haven't anticipated, then if we need that money, we got to go to the fund balance.
That's correct.
And if the fund balance, if you don't have enough monies in your fund balance to operate, say whatever number of months, then we could have a problem.
Yes, sir.
How did we deal with the problem? We only had 700 and so many thousand.
We borrow money. And I've been around, this is my working on 31 years, and I have seen the whole bottom fall out where you laid off 50 people one day. You know, it was that tragic. So I've lived through the worst and lived through the best, and we're just trying to plug along as we plan for the worst and hope for the best.
For many years, the board on the budget, a good many of the years I was here, every year we did tax anticipation note. Every year we did a tax anticipation note. And the board finally started putting a percentage of the budget in there so we could add to the fund balance. And right now, we have a healthy fund balance. I would say it's more or less for emergency, like if something happens in the tax collection, if it falls off, that's when we fall back on it. But with as healthy as our fund balance is right now, I think we can start getting the budget more down to the precise numbers rather than adding, if we got a $28 million budget, adding 5% in there and adding 5% of that right there, knowing that we're not gonna use it, that we're gonna put it in the fund balance. And right now, the fund balance we have is over $7 million, and we've already moved, was that $1.5 million we moved over to CIP. So that would have put us at eight, that would have been $39 million we would have had in the fund balance to have to move that, but the budget needs to be trimmed down a little bit, and let's don't put $800,000-900,000 in the fund balance this coming year.
If you, Mr. Rhodes.
I was thinking about the $14 or $15 million that the federal government's giving us. I know, Dr. Gary said that we're gonna use $9 million to kind of offset the AVM with the, you know, HVACs and the filters and the lights and stuff like that. That leaves 6, and you said 2% of that needs to go toward instructional loss, right?
Right.
Well, the rest of it, we should be able to use in our general fund as the kickback, right? Or it's not tagged to go to any certain area, so we should be able to do our budget using whatever's left out of that 6 million after the 2% comes in to offset any kind of tax increase or step increase that we'll have that year. I don't think it's gonna be over $6 million, is it?
But that 6 million is not earmarked for that. It was earmarked for categories we had to spend it on, and that's where we sat down as an entire district to determine how we would use that remaining money. In the back of my mind, I always wanted to protect as much as we could for that ABM purchase, because that's money we're not gonna have to borrow.
And we know that's an exact number from ABM. Do we know that for sure?
No, August, 1st of August, we'll get the exact number. That's the rough estimate I have.
When we were going over the budget last month, I saw down there, and I wished I had it with me. Yeah, I don't have it with me tonight, but I saw on there where it was asking for a 5.8 mil increase, and it showed the value of the mill at being at $34,000. And now I'm looking at a report here that says the value of the mill is $40,000. I mean, the report we had last month showed that, huh?
It's projected right up there. 39 is this year, 40 for next year, value.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, but
I know.
when we did the thing last month, it showed the value of the mill at $34,000.
I agree with you.
And now, in actuality, even the current year we're in right now, it's $39,700. So,
Operational
huh?
damage. Operational.
Yeah.
So if what we've been given on the proposed budget, or even what was passed as first reading last month, am I understanding it correctly that expenses exceed revenues by $802,000? Is that what it was? Am I thinking correctly? I don't have it in front of me.
Or last month's.
Yeah, what was presented, the budget.
The
Yes,
first reading.
it's 900,000 is what it was last
So
month.
900 unbalanced, is that what we're saying?
That's correct.
Right.
So why are we being presented an unbalanced budget? I don't understand presenting us an unbalanced budget.
Well, the board would have to choose to, fund it with the, fund balance.
Or the board could choose to say, let's sharpen our pencils. I think that's the term that you used when you were talking about a contractor. You didn't like the number the contractor gave you, and I remember reading, let's sharpen our pencils and come back again. I think we need to sharpen our pencils and come back, losing about $800,000 worth of expenses where we got a balanced budget. We shouldn't have to go take $900,000 out of our fund balance.
Well, again, now, what created that deficit? When we get to the state, back to this chart, we're in a hole because the state created us a hole. We didn't create the hole.
You can't go back, you can't say we're in a hole because we've had excess money every year. You can't say we're in a hole. That would have been additional money we could have put up had they fully funded the base student cost. But you can't go back and look and say, oh, if they would have given us this, we'd have this. No, this is what we get to work with, and that's what we have to make a budget off of. All right? So this budget that we're operating under currently, this year, when it closes out, what's your projection? Is there gonna be a surplus or a deficit when it closes?
There will probably be a surplus, and I can't determine right now what it is, and we're waiting for the State Department to approve the ESSER 2 budget for the, we spent $500,000 on bonuses, so that's a big number.
So if they say you can use the ESSER money, then that's 500
Right.
extra. So I have a problem when we know we're gonna have excess funds left over from the prior year budget, saying, oh, well, we can't trim the budget down to a reasonable level. I just, that doesn't make sense.
Well, I want some guidance then, because you just heard presented, our margin is 2%. Now, if that's too fluff, then somebody define for me what is acceptable. Now, 5%, that might be fluff. But in the Gary household, 2% ain't fluff. Now, if that's not acceptable, y'all tell me, and we'll work to that acceptable number.
And then if you're 900,000, where's the proposals, where was the cuts be? Where's the most money?
But now, my question is, okay, right now, the budget says $900,000 plus in unbalanced, okay? If we raise taxes 6 mils, that's still not gonna cover that
That's
900,000.
included, that millage is already included, $240,000 is already included in that budget for revenue.
In other words, if we raise taxes, we're still
That's
Still
right.
not holding
900.
it.
Where you gonna get it?
Well, you wanna cut some classroom teachers? I don't know, this is the board's decision.
Fund balance is how we've done it in the past, right?
Huh?
That's how we did it last time.
What last
The
time?
last time we approved the budget.
There was a transfer.
22 years.
The second time, about 2 years ago, when we approved the budget, we moved money from the fund balance
The-
to approve it. You
But there
made
was
the
a
motion.
surplus when the budget closed out, all right? And that's the problem I have. You can't come here and say, we have a deficit, we need to move some money over here, and then when you close everything out, well, we got a surplus.
We have 2 lawsuits against against the state and counties, one's from CSX and one's from one of the utility companies to reduce their taxes. There are things, underlying things like that we don't know. We can plan for those things. You know, they can cut our taxes $1 million mid-year, and we don't have a plan for that. So we plan for the worst and hope for the best.
With a 2% margin.
Right.
I still think the biggest concern for everybody is the tax increase on the county coming out of a COVID thing where a lot of people didn't get to work. I mean, I know there's places, every place you go now has got a help wanted sign on it, and people are trying to go back to work, but doing a tax increase on the public, I mean, we are the public for $200,000, that's not gonna offset the deficit that you're setting as a budget is the problem I think the majority of the 9 of us have. I don't wanna see us a tax increase on anybody. I don't wanna pay a tax increase, but I know we're gonna have to on certain things, but then we're gonna turn around in a year or so and ask for a referendum. It's not gonna go. That's not gonna work, because you just increase taxes just to not even balance the budget. So that's not gonna go, and that's why I'm saying we need to find a way to make the budget without a tax increase. If we have to use some of that $15 million that the federal government's getting, if we can, which I understand that there's some of that money we can put toward this and toward that and toward everything else. We need to figure out a way to use that so we don't increase the budget, increase taxes on people, and make our budget balanced as close as we possibly can. Yeah, I know in the past, whatever years, we've had an overage that we've put toward capital improvements. Coming off a pandemic like we just did, where teachers wasn't in the classroom, students wasn't in the classroom, people wasn't working except for essential jobs, I think it'd be a good time to let's make the budget as tight as we possibly can and as close as we possibly can, and then work our way back to what we were doing before as people get back to work and taxes can settle out. That's just my concern.
And Ms. Scott, what happens if you don't do the millage increase?
It's a cumulative amount over a period of years. We can only go back 3 years and recapture the percentage.
So we use one-time money to help pay, like with 84% of our budget being payroll. Say we use that money, extra money, use that. So that covers their payroll this year, and when that money runs out, then what happens with the payroll then?
And that's my warning shot. If you tack ESSER money to trying to solve a budget issue, in 3 years, what you gonna do? Because you're not gonna have a windfall sitting here waiting. And you've set a precedent that's gonna bite you. So I'm saying that to you right now, be real careful
And we have
before you go that route.
And we have a declining enrollment and.
Right now, right, that's why our villages, out of 77 districts, 32 showed zero growth. And we're one of that 32. So we need to pay attention.
We're actually receiving or budgeting less for the base student cost this 21-22 than we received in 2021 because of the loss of students. We still have the same faculty, still have the same staff.
One more question. I know it's not on the report, and I know you wouldn't know probably right off the head. Bonds.
Yes, sir.
Do we have bonds that are paying out?
We do not owe any bond, we do not have any debt right now. In the past, we have issued bonds in the amount of like 31, 32 mils every year. We made our payment in March and we are out of debt, so.
Okay, well, what I'm saying, but that millage that we were receiving to pay bonds, is that millage still in this budget right here?
No, sir.
It's not in there.
That's correct.
So now, correct me if I'm wrong, if we had 39 mils, is that what you said?
32.
32 mils that we were collecting to pay bonds, that 32 mils, when did it go away?
It will go away this year on the tax notice if you don't issue any more bonds, or if you can actually choose to use the millage for the operations, you can use that, maintain the 32 mils, but make it a common vote.
What would that do to our budget if we left that 32 mils on there and didn't drop it?
And put it in the general fund?
Yeah.
You can't do that.
You can't do that.
Can't
It's
do
gotta
that.
be-
You
it's
can't
gotta
borrow
be
money.
earmarked.
Debt service.
It's gotta be earmarked for that.
It's debt.
And hadn't it always been recommended to maintain that 32 mils?
Well, just so the tax notices wouldn't go up and down. But we normally allowed to go 5.9 mils.
Right.
Yeah, we can't go more than that without approval, right?
Well, we can't go any more than that according to the Act 388.
So.
We can reduce the amount of mills for debt so that it's the same millage rate, a total millage rate.
I guess my question was, okay, the taxpayers will actually see that 32 million come off of their tax bill
That's,
this fall, right?
Hope not.
if I may,
Okay.
if we don't use it again, what we've agreed to for quite a few years is you borrow money and keep it at 32 mils. You can use that for capital improvements. It's almost $2 million a year that you can use, right? If you ever let it fall off, then the next year when you want to go back and borrow money and you jack your taxes back up to 32, folks go,
So,
Get it.
because I'm right, it was recommended to maintain that.
you maintain that 32, so
Yeah.
But
we'll borrow some money next year if we do the smart thing. We'll borrow some money, we can use it for some capital improvements. That's the whole idea of the debt, right? Now, if somebody else can look at this, I pulled up a calculator. You said you're operating on a 2% margin on your budget. 2% overage margin, is that what we're saying?
Well, it's 2% revenue and 2% expenditures, which is about 4%.
So you're saying, you're projecting you're gonna get,
This is past budget.
okay, well, let's just talk about the expenses. So we're talking about a 2% margin on your expenses, because if we look at our budget, we're at $900,000, if you take that other $200,000 out for the taxes we're talking about, we're $1.1 million out of balance, right? 2% margin on $28 million is $560,000. Right, that would be 2% plus. If we got 1.1, we got about 5% that's out here. If anybody else wants to do that, I just pulled the calculator up to look.
I'm sorry, can
I'm
you
sorry.
say that again?
$28 million is what your budget is. 2% of that is $560,000.
Okay.
Right? Well, we're not $560,000 out of balance. We're $1.1 million out of balance.
I'm talking about 2% put back in the fund balance, because if we did not spend 2% of the budget.
So you're not saying that
expenditures.
we're overestimating 2%? Is that not what we're saying with the budget? Is that?
We're not overestimating, we're allowing for contingencies.
So you build a 2% contingency, right? We'll call it.
Well, it's not really, it's not even that. We allow for teachers who increase their, or their certification. They may go from a master's to a master's plus 30, that's $10,000, plus 32% for fringe. We have to have money in there to do that. We don't know who's going to do that, who's not going to.
That's why we have a fund balance.
Would you rather that we go in the hole $900,000 or put $900,000 in the bank?
I don't think you're gonna go in the whole $900,000 or put $900,000. That's not the option there.
Dr. Gary, based on your past experience for budgeting, and you are suggesting that we keep the 2%?
Yes,
You're-
because of the unknown.
So if you are superintendent of some other school district, would you do the same thing?
We did.
So you're saying based on your experiences and we hired you to give us advice.
Every district I've been in.
And
That's
so-
the percentage.
And so basically, if we do anything differently, we are basically going against your experiences, and we hadn't had those experiences that you had.
Yes, sir.
But and if we go against it, I mean, we can do it because we are the board, but you are saying that based on your experiences and your knowledge of school and school operation and so forth, this is the best advice you can give this district.
Yes, sir. I don't see us mismanaging how we're building our budget. I think Ms. Scott and her team does a great job, and we're within acceptable limits. You go back and look at past minutes from Abbeville, you're able to put money toward fund balance because of the work they've done in planning a good budget. And I think we need to stay the course.
Question. Oh, thank you for, no, I've had a lot throughout all of the questions, but the roughly 32 mills, that's gonna be on the upcoming tax bills, correct?
If the board passes that resolution, yes.
Is that not came to us yet?
Right, it has not.
It will be coming to us, okay.
If that's the desire of the board.
Understood,
yes.
so we're, okay. I just want to make sure of that.
But if we don't, it doesn't.
Yeah, if we don't, it drops off.
No.
So on the unbalanced budget portion, I mean, can we legally, I don't know the law. I guess you're presumed to know the law, but can we legally pass a unbalanced budget, or do we have to show the budget balancing with revenues, whether it'd be revenues from the fund balance. But we can't, I was under the impression, just based on my experiences, that we can't have a revenues column over here and an expenditures column over here and show it being unbalanced, as we are a subsidiary of state government. I think the federal government does that, but I don't think we can. So I'm just asking that question.
I'm not a lawyer, but I think the law states that we cannot pass an unbalanced budget.
You can't.
Huh?
You
I think
can't.
that's
That's
the
what
law.
we're saying. You're gonna have to take $900,000 out of the fund balance, or if we don't do the tax increase, you're gonna take $1.1 million out of the fund balance. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so,
But-
just so we're all clear, if we don't do the tax increase, it's gonna take $1.1 million. All
Okay.
right? And if we're saying that's the 2% margin, y'all can call it the 2% margin. That just don't add up when that's not 2%.
But that has to be indicated on the little one-page information that
Right.
we
You
get for a
have-
budget. It
Yep.
it needs to be shown on there, if I'm correct.
Is that what's in the public notice? Does it show balance in the public notice?
It would have to
No,
show,
it does not.
Well, see,
It would have to show the
It's not required to
sources.
show- It just shows expenditures, the amount of expenditures. And we are working to balance that. We have some retiring teachers, and we have some new teachers coming in, and I feel like there'll probably be $100,000 savings there. We're just now getting everyone hired and put into the system. So we are looking at other funds. We just presented the budget with the negative balance so that you would see what we're having to try to find funds to balance the budget. It is the option of the board to use the fund balance, and if we don't, well, the money just goes back into the fund balance and we'll transfer for capital projects.
one more question, if you don't mind. In our millage limitation, in our policy and in state law, there are several, I think 6 or 7 exceptions to us exceeding Act 388. Does this, if we were to pass a budget that shows us being in a $1.1 million or $900, does that give the board the authority to vote on a millage increase above what we're allowed by law due to Act 388?
Yes, it does.
So once we pass that budget, then we could go right back and jack the millage up by a vote to add that millage to the taxpayer.
That's correct.
That's
Isn't that
very
the very scenario?
disturbing.
Well, that's the very scenario that was discussed, is to prepare a budget that allows you to go back and raise extra taxes. I don't know if you remember that discussion when they were on, I think you had brought it up, that was a concern, that you're gonna pass something that's gonna allow you to backdoor a tax increase.
Well, I think that's the 4th or 5th budget I've been through, and I've never seen one at the bottom of the various items we get that don't add up, revenues and expenditures to the penny. Now, it may footnote, we're gonna transfer so many dollars from fund balance from our budgetary standpoint, but this one just clearly shows a negative balance on income or overage on expenditure. So I'm just,
Well, it's kind of disturbing that that's what's gonna be put in the paper, as a public notice. An unbalanced number.
well, my concern is if this budget is passed like this, then the district would be able to assert that we have a deficiency in our budget. And therefore, there will be another potential for a vote on a millage increase to cover that difference. And that's disturbing.
So if you're gonna have a millage increase of 900 plus, that's a lot of millage.
It'll be a lot of millage.
That's a lot of millage. That's not a baby step, that's a giant step.
And let me ask one more question, and this may be follow-up. If
And that's not-
that were to happen, would Act 388 cover that for owner-occupied residences? Would they cover that difference for owner-occupied residences on the tax credit? I know they wouldn't cover businesses, vehicles, all that, but does anybody know that?
I don't think it did. We did that in 2011, 12, I think. And we actually spread it out over a 3-year period, 10 mills each year. I think you were here when we did that. to make up for a loss. And I don't think it was on owner-occupied homes.
It's on everything else.
It's everything else.
Act 388 kind of cancels everything on the
So it
occupied
gives
homes.
the credit back
Back
even
to the-
for
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But that would be, well, me personally, I don't even want to consider it. But,
Yeah, I don't. let's
yeah,
not-
but I don't want us to get into a situation where we voted something in place by at least the way the form document is presented that we're voting on, and it leaves us in a potential that the majority of this board could pass a tax increase of that extent.
The idea is to come back next board meeting with a plan
Yeah, I hope so.
to balance it, correct?
That's correct.
Dr. Gary? Ms. Scott? Any other questions for Ms. Scott? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Mr. McKenzie, would you give us a technology update, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have your technology report for this month in the packet. Just our final end-of-year report for our 1-1 program. Included schedule for some technology projects in the past, that's the information you're doing, so we had included that. I won't elaborate on anything unless you have questions about insurance.
Mr. Kinsey, was the 3% not collected, was that expected or projected? I mean,
That's better than expected.
okay,
Based on what my colleagues in other districts, there was actually one of my colleagues conducted a survey, and the average is about between 5 and 10% not collected, so we did really good. Again, it was thanks to the folks we recognized tonight. They were really diligent about going after and getting those.
okay. All right. Any other questions for Mr. Kinsey? Mr. Dunn?
Yeah, one, in the information security report, I appreciate that. You and I talked about that. I'm just gonna let you know what I receive sometimes. Sometimes I receive an email that says, from Brad Evans.
Yeah, that's
And it'll say, hey, give me a call if you don't mind, or just, hey, just reply to this email, et cetera. Just be aware.
Yeah.
Don't
I
reply to
haven't
that.
seen those.
But some of those don't get spammed.
Yeah.
Some of them don't get spammed, so be very careful, board members, about your email and what you open.
It's worse statewide because I get some from the past presidents of the School Board Association, and I'm like, they're not
Don't
even.
look right.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
Is that on the district email?
Yeah,
yeah.
I've gotten emails, I remember from, it's
I used to get-
phishing emails from Brad Evans, from James Tisdale, from you.
I used to get some when I was treasurer of an organization that says, could you, I authorize and you
Yeah.
send gift cards.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're all, you all, and we all are public officials, so our information's out there, so those folks that are trying to scam have that information, and they can.
Yeah, they can email.
To be something that's not. That's part of, we'll get into that in more detail at a future meeting or whatever, but that's some of the things that we're trying to do to remedy that and help folks be aware of those kinds of situations and know not to click on those emails.
Good job. Any other questions for Mr. Kim? Thank you. And thank you to the media specialists, those that are still here. Thanks for all the good work y'all do. All right. Our next item is discussion action items, funding flexibility.
Yes, we've done this in prior years where we took an excess of funding from one source to another. CERDEP is our 4K program. We currently have $500,000 in that account, and we want to move $150,000 to students at risk of failure. We do this, sometimes this helps alleviate our general fund budget. Students at risk of failure are those students whose test scores are not, or low, and we're able to put teachers, able to maintain the teachers for the low class size that helps in that. The students at risk of failure has it allows us to use the funds for all students instead of just 4K program. Our 4K program is supplemented by Title I funds, so this is a surplus, and there we'd like for the board to approve moving it.
There's a, this is an action item, is there a motion to approve the funding flexibility plan? Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
Also moved.
Mr. Tisdale moves that we authorize the funding flexibility. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. People, second. Any more discussion? Anybody understand what Ms. Scott said? Mr. Dunn?
Yeah, my question, is this just within Title I funding? Did I
This is-
misunderstand?
This is state funding.
Okay, okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And you said we have 300,000, is that what I'm seeing?
Well,
Am I seeing this
our
right?
current allocation is 300,000, and we had a carryover amount from the prior year for 276,000. We have probably $150,000 left in there for, we have $300,000 that is in excess, and we want to move half of it to students at risk. The other half we'll use probably for playground equipment for the 4K program.
Any other questions or discussion?
Is this gonna be for a summer program or something for those students at risk?
No, sir, we're actually funding that. We have a summer reading program that uses those funds. This will be for reduced class size, so we can maintain teachers in smaller, or have teachers to have smaller classes in the K through 5th grade.
Okay, so this is gonna reduce the teacher pupil ratio,
Yes, sir.
from, you said what, kindergarten to 5th grade?
Yes, sir.
So this $150,000 will offset, if it's used for teacher pay, all teacher pay, right? It'll offset what the unfunded part of the teacher pay increase would be. That's $150,000.
Well, it does relieve the general fund budget, because we can pay those teachers out of those funds.
How many teachers can you pay out, how many teachers can we take care of with $150,000?
2. And those are young teachers.
Any other discussion? It's a motion and a second to approve the funding flexibility. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? All right. Personnel, Dr. Gary, we have, Al, of you have a proposal for personnel in your packets? Yes, sir.
I move to approve administrative recommendations for 3 continuing contracts, reinduction, and 2 contract releases.
There's a motion to approve 3 continuing, 3 induction, and 2 contract releases. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Rhodes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of administration's recommendation, please raise your right hand. All those opposed?
Abstain.
Mr. Still abstains. No. Action item number 3 is what we did earlier in the meeting, was a declared emergency to add for a resolution to extend the budget adopted for 2021 school year until such time as the district adopts a new budget. Is there a motion to adopt do a resolution to extend the budget?
I'll make a motion we can approve a continuing resolution.
Second.
The motion to continue the resolution on the budget, second by Mr. Peebles. Any more discussion on the budget? Continuation. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed? So moved. Is now item J, request for information. Mr. Brooks?
Brother Gary, haven't heard anything lately on the sales tax. You were exploring that. You were going to talk to state legislature.
Yes.
Before we have on that.
I have not been able to talk to Mr. Gagnon yet to get us any update, but I'll continue working on that.
Okay.
Dr. Gary, I just wondered, and I know, if you could, I just heard, for our, and Ms. Cunningham, I know sitting there, but for the food this summer, did we do anything school-wide or county-wide? And I heard there was other districts doing that. I didn't know if we did that or had to do that. Okay. Any other, yes, Mr.
This is not a request for information, this is kind of directed to you as our board chair. It's troubling to me that this board, and it's our responsibility to pass a budget and pass it on time, all right? And that didn't happen, all right? And that bothers me, it embarrasses me as a board member, it should embarrass every board member that's sitting in here, that didn't happen. We delegate the authority to have that prepared and ready for us. That's something the board will have to deal with that. But the board, we answer to the public, right? And so I kind of feel like maybe as our representative, as the board chair, the liaison to the public, it might be a good idea if you issue a statement on behalf of the board,
Okay.
explaining why that didn't happen.
Sure.
And apologize on behalf of the board, because we failed to do what we were supposed to do by law.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. I think we all understand what happened, and we understand the need for it to do it again. Honestly, I did not see the second agenda when it went out to everybody until it went to everybody. So, you know, it's a mishap that we will do, and I'll be happy to make a statement.
Okay, thank you.
Any other requests for information? Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting? Second. All those in favor, let's stand up. Thank you.